Christopher Spera, and this is the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 96. It has a use case problem. Recorded live Sunday, June 30th, 2024, live from iTechGear Central. As I said, I'm Christopher Spera, the editor-in-chief here at iTechGear.org, and joining us today, from the movings that is going on, Mr. Larry McJunkin, former co-owner of WUGNET Publications. How are you, sir?
I am fine. It's so hard for me to believe that we're coming up on 3 digits of numbers of episodes for this show.
Wow.
But speaking of that move, we're not even done. We're not even started yet. We've been decluttering the house, as you all know what that means. Packing, putting these things in storage. There's a big takeaway from all of this. Make sure, boys and girls, that you do all of your moving early in life when you're young. Do not attempt this at 70 plus. It doesn't work. No,
it doesn't. Moving is horrible.
It
is.
I mean, it's fun. It's exciting that you're going to go to a new place, but.
Yeah, true. And it should be a lot easier and a little bit better for you once you get there. So we're looking forward to hearing all the wonderful stories of you getting in and setting everything up for the first time in the new space. So that's pretty cool. Also joining us this week, bringing the dulcet tones to play, former contributing editor over at Gear Diary and Pocket Now, and of course, editor over here at iTechGear.org, Mr. Chris Gavula. How are you, sir?
We're doing. Had a challenging week this week, but hopefully next week will be smoother. And always happy to be here. Well, it's always the highlight of my week, or one of the highlights of my week. Sure you are.
Sure
you say that. But yeah,
goodness, yes.
We're having some fun.
Yeah, Brother Joe McLaughlin, however, is not with us this week. He is away with the family, getting a little R&R, so a little for him and in his family. So we wish them a safe journey and a wonderful trip and a safe trip back. So, but one of the things that really kind of caught our eye this week, and I know, Chris, that you're the one that sort of brought this up to us. The U.S. Mac market is growing again.
Yeah. And everybody had said it died and it was going to be totally dead. And, this was the last gasp. That's what we were saying again. So we were hearing, I should say. Well, and it had been growing during the pandemic, and everybody said, well, okay, all that's done. But the problem was it was shrinking at a faster rate than the PC market was shrinking. And so there was a lot of concern about, well, where does that leave Apple? Does it mean the PC makers are catching up? Well, guess what, kids? As of the first quarter, they're back on top in terms of growth. So,
interestingly enough, Mac shipments are estimated to have grown from 1.7 million in the first quarter of 2023 to 2.1 million in the same quarter this year, and that represents a year-over-year growth of 22%. Giving Apple,
and by the way, the larger PC market only grew at 5%. So
right, giving Apple a 14.2% share of the U.S. PC market. So, and comparatively, like you said, the PC market only grew 5%.
And you remember a time not too many years ago where they said Apple will never crack the 10% market share. They'll never do it. And here they are at almost 15%. Now, is that a big deal? Kinda, considering they're the only manufacturer of an Apple device, as opposed to the PC market, which has lots of manufacturers. But it makes it kind of interesting, doesn't it? They're doing much better than people thought.
So what do you credit this?
Well, I think a lot of
3 times. But they've almost got 3 times the share of the or growth of the PC than the PC market.
Well, there was a new MacBook Air, right? And let's face it, every time they release a new device, now there hadn't been the new Pro or any of the others to sort of follow that up. But the M4s are coming, so I have a feeling that's going to keep going for a while. You know, that growth will keep going.
M4s are coming. The M4s are coming.
Yes. Coming. Yeah. I don't know whether to throw up my hands in fear or joy. You know, there you go.
From a real world perspective, I mean, we all like benchmarks and abundant numbers and all of that. But when I saw this was on our list for today, I went back in the club here and I pulled up some real time stats. 14 years ago, when I came to Telco Village, we had obviously a computer club had been in business for years. I mean, 10 years at that point. There were a little over 800 members in the computer club, and they had just started a Mac special interest group, and we had 87 members in that. Today, fast forward, we have well over 1,300 members. We have nearly 500 Mac users. That's huge.
Well, when your total membership is 1,300,
I mean, but
just under half.
We went from 10% to a third to 33%. In 14 years.
And between us guys, I think that Microsoft, we've talked about this on our show a number of times. I think Microsoft keeps doing little things that are pissing people off, and
they are, and it's not necessarily pissing them off. People like retired folks or folks that just aren't geeks, they don't know how to deal with all of this, just this chat. I mean, this AI stuff. They just don't, and they're confused by it. And so far, Apple hasn't shoved it down their throat. So a few of them, I think, are offboarding and going that direction.
I think we're just starting to see it in Apple operating systems, but it's showing up, as I have said a couple of times now. It shows up in little ways as things that help you within an app a little bit, not things that are shoved in your face.
Never hits you in the face, Chris. I bet it never
and that's
does.
exactly
that's
exactly
it'll
right.
be there. It'll be
hopefully
there.
It won't. They won't shove it, in your face. Windows is all about, and Microsoft has been all about the Copilot Plus PC, right? And that is really where Microsoft is focusing. The next version of Windows is all going to be about Copilot, and how the AI is going to integrate with the operating system. I still think that, on the Apple side of this equation, I still think that Apple's going to move to put the AI in the operating system. But while Microsoft is busy beating you in the face with it, I don't think that Apple's going to take that tact. All right. It'll be there.
They never have historically. I don't see why they would
start.
Well, nobody has historically. I mean, AI is really new within the last 18 or so months.
And you and I and the Microsoft stuff has come up quick and sudden, like you have no choice. It's duck or run kind of thing. Whereas Apple, and you and I were talking about this in the pre-show. In general, Apple's approach has been very evolutionary, not revolutionary. And even when it is revolutionary, they do it in such a way that it feels normal. It feels comfortable. It feels like it was intended to be there in the first place. And the point I'm getting at is that they understand that their audience likes a certain amount of consistency. You don't change everything all at once and throw things in your face, and you just you introduce things gradually or however you do it. But they understand.
Historically, Microsoft has done this before. They did this. Remember, about 12 years ago with Windows 8.
Well, and I made this comment in another thing. You and I were talking about an article that I'm about to post in the next week or so. I actually mentioned it in that article, that we have to remember that that's exactly what got them in trouble. They made too much of a change too quickly, and it wasn't necessarily the wrong change. If you actually look back at it, it wasn't necessarily the wrong thing to do, but they did it too much, too big, too fast, in your face, with no choices. It was too big of a leap for the user to accept,
right? They didn't. And one of the things that you and I had been saying then, and I think, Larry, you and I had also talked about it then at that point, is they should have baby stepped. There should have been an interim update in between Windows 7 and Windows 8. You want to call it,
or at least a way to toggle it,
whatever,
or a way to toggle it, or something.
Some way of getting us to the Metro interface, some way of getting us to the tiles, all right, as the main interface or UI for Windows. They would have had a much better success rate than they did.
True, but there's one other way. There's a blunt way to look at this too. Apple's going to eventually put the same amount of AI into Mac OS and all their other systems.
They will.
Yeah,
But you
they
know
will.
what? They're going to do it in a different way. They're going to, instead of shoving it, they'll probably shove it up some orifice just the same way that Microsoft did. The difference is they're going to use a lot of Vaseline.
They are.
It's not going to hurt.
No,
They are.
that's
They
And
are. They're
Microsoft
going
just
to ease it in.
just
That's
like I
right.
said, it's going to feel like it was natural, like it was supposed to
right.
be
That's a
that
good
way.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how Apple does stuff. They make
They're
it
going
feel
to
like,
grease
oh,
that pole.
I
like
needed
you
that.
said.
I wanted that. Yeah. That,
Yes.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
right, Chris. That's a great one. They're going to make you
That's-
think you really wanted it. Right.
Yes.
Right.
They will.
and it's not just a sales or marketing thing. They're actually going to put it together in a way that you will want it.
You will believe it.
It's not just a marketing thing. It's interesting how they've done that. And I've said that's how they've been. We in the pre-show we were talking about the fact that some people said iPad OS 18 isn't going far enough, and I said, but that's how Apple's approached all this stuff. They never make these huge. It's always this slow, comfortable changes that, and they've always made you. Oh, okay, that's good. I'm glad you added that. Okay, that's
Yes.
great. I'm glad you added that. That's the approach that they've taken to everything. That's what I see happening with
Yes.
AI.
You end up
in all their
comfortably
products.
numb.
There
if
are
you
there are
will.
already, even in iPad OS and iOS 18, the betas, there are AI features there. Now, they're not going to introduce most until later this year, but some of them are already there.
They are.
And the ones that are there are very intuitive little things that you wouldn't think of, but they're AI things. So, for example, I'm using Apple Notes and I'm handwriting something, like I'm taking notes. It cleans up your handwriting a little bit so it's easier to read, but it doesn't change your style of writing. It's using AI to sort of do that for you.
Sort of unchicken scratch, more chicken, less scratch. Yes.
Also, in using the notes in the new calculator that they included in iPad OS, they have, you can write out the equation, and the dang thing will finish the equation for you or make a graph of it for you, all within the notes, and you hand wrote it out.
Right.
These are the kinds of AI things that I think Apple will keep introducing. That's how they're going to slide it in the back door on us, so to speak.
And again, like Larry, you said, Apple will introduce AI features. It'll be just as AI heavy as the Windows side.
It will.
But it's going to be done in such a way that they will make you think that
it'll also be easier
idea.
to accept, I think.
Yes, I do too. I have to agree with you. And again, so this gets to
I'll bet you'll never see an Apple Copilot button on an Apple keyboard.
No,
you will never see a Siri key.
But to get back to your original question as to, why do we think that the Mac market has done this? Well, this is why, because the Apples have been very stable and very consistent. And I think people recognize that and want that right now. I think that's what people, want their computer to be. It's very stable and very consistent. They don't need they don't need the fireworks in their face. They just don't. They don't want it.
People in general, I think a lot of folks have trouble accepting change. All right. When you come to work, you've got tasks to be completed.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't want to have to think about, you want the muscle memory to take over, and you want the muscle memory to take you through some of the tasks. You don't want to have to rethink, now, how do I get to this feature of this application? How do I now have to go, oh, it changed. They moved the cheese. How now, where is the cheese, and where do I have to go to get it?
Well, and I'm
People
going
don't
through a lot of that.
see that all the time, and they don't want that. It's drastic.
I'm going through that with Microsoft 365 apps right now.
Right.
They don't work the way they did. There are things that keep popping up that, where did that come from? Why am I looking at this now? It isn't how I'm used to doing it. And I'm seeing that already in their apps a lot.
Right.
Forget the operating system, forget the machines. I see that in their apps. So they're getting you all the way around right now. And it's very frustrating when you're trying to do, like you said, you're doing things, you tend to do a lot of your work by muscle memory, at least the tools. You use the tool. A screwdriver always works like a screwdriver works, And when they change how a screwdriver works, all of a sudden it's like, what the heck is this? What am I supposed to do now? You have to take time to figure that out.
Right.
It's just one more thing to deal with.
And you don't want that, which is the reason why Windows 8 was such a failure.
I think so too.
People had to rethink how how they got things done, not getting the things done, but how they had to do them. All right. And it just got to be too much. So,
well, not to mention the fact that old tools didn't work well with it and things
well,
like
that's
that. That's a
true.
whole
That's
a whole
nother
thing.
conversation.
They didn't sell it
yes.
to their vendors beforehand, which is what they should have done. But
well,
there you go.
They should have done a lot.
They should have done a lot of things. I agree.
But they didn't. And speaking of
So now
AI, speaking of AI, apparently now OpenAI's Mac app is available to everybody. So Larry, what's going on there?
Well, the headlines all read OpenAI's ChatGPT for Mac app is now available to everyone. Think about that just for a moment. If you wanted to install that app, where would you go? I wanted to install it. So I said, Mac app, Mac store, App Store.
Yep.
Nope. No. Problem number one is trying to find the damn thing. The first place you'd look is the App Store. And when you go there and you type in OpenAI ChatGPT, 71 apps hit you in the face, none of which are this one. They all want your attention, but the official OpenAI ChatGPT app for Mac is currently available for download only on the openai.com website. So if you're looking for this real McCoy, don't be tricked by all the imposters in the App Store where you think it should be.
So it's not in the App Store at all.
It's not there. No, it's absolutely not there. No.
But what does it mean available? What does it mean by available to all then? If it wasn't available before?
Well, it's available to all, but it's only available on OpenAI's chat or a website.
So I guess my question is, where was it
previously
before?
Was probably only available to paid users. All right, so now it's
I bet it was.
All right, so now it's available
what changed
to both free as well as paid users.
Right. I am a free OpenAI. I do have I do have an account with them. Right. And I did want to try this app, so I did go to their website and I did install it. And yes, it is only an Apple Silicon Mac app. It's not just a universal app that'll work with everything. Apple Silicon only. But you know what? There's a reason for this. I'm okay with that because Intel processors can't do AI like M series can. So
you
have to have that you have to have that neural chip in there. So
it's a very slick app. I'm impressed with it. It saves me now from having to go up to that website to do whatever little things that I do with ChatGPT. But
from what I understand, like with what is it? Spotlight. It is a command space bar to get Spotlight to come up. With this application, it's an Alt space bar. All right.
So you can change that. You can change that to whatever you want, but that's default.
But my point is, if you're looking for a way to get directly to AI and have it be integrated effectively into the Mac operating system before Apple Intelligence is released, this app is probably the easiest way to go, and it's going to be the one that's probably going to be the least. I'm looking for
to me it's genuine. It feels like the original.
Genuine is probably the best word for it. It's not as smarmy, it's not as I
feel comfortable using this. I don't feel like it's going through a third party. It's coming from the real people that really started this whole thing, sort of. No, I'm impressed. It's a good app.
Right. There aren't other things that are trying to get your attention. It's not going to install any other kind of goofy crap along with it. So,
well, now that we have to credit Apple for. They just won't let anybody build an app without vetting it, even if it's not on their store. They're going to hammer somebody that does that.
Well, they do, even though sometimes
and it's good. I like that.
They're kind of missed.
So if you want to use AI, this is probably the cleanest way to get
right
there
now before Apple Intelligence gets here,
and without crap being beaten in your face.
And you know what? It's intuitive. Yeah. It's also very simple and intuitive, easy to use. So
there you go.
It's a good thing.
There you go. So I want to go ahead now, and I want to move us out of our Apple segment, and I'm going to get us in. This is the 1 week where Joel isn't here. The mobile Linux segment has got the most stuff in it that it has in a while. So, Brother Joel, if you're listening, I apologize for doing that.
Timing is everything.
But timing is everything. And honestly, this week we had a lot of general computing stuff, and we tend to put a lot of our general computing stuff in the mobile Linux segment.
Yeah, we
simply
do.
because of it's a lot of the Google stuff tends to land in there. And speaking of Google and AI, Gemini is now officially part of everything that's Google.
Yeah.
So,
yes, it is. Hang on.
So you
let's
can't
talk.
escape it.
Let's
It's
talk about that.
everywhere.
And let's talk about that. Then I'm going to talk about how I had to avoid it in one particular situation, because it interfered with something. So we'll go there in a minute.
Yeah, no worries. The one thing though that I think is really kind of interesting. Now this is Gemini is Google's AI.
Their
All
open
right.
AI competitor, as it were.
Right. It is an open AI competitor. And if you are a Google workspace sort of person, and to an extent, iTechGear.org is all right, because we use Gmail and well, at least as long as I've been around. And that's
Well,
partially because
let's
of
be
the
specific. Okay, so for example, we all have Gmail accounts, whether we use them or not. I
right,
don't use Gmail, the app or the
right,
website.
right.
So we sort of are and we sort of aren't.
We sort of are and we sort of aren't. But if you're a Google Workspace person, you're gonna get this integration of Gemini in Gmail and Google Drive and Docs and Sheets and Slides. Isn't that right, Larry?
That is correct. Now that I've spit my water all over my console. No, actually, I got to say this one really trips my trigger. I'm not against AI, far from it.
Mm-hmm.
But because I spent my entire life in technology, it's easier for me to do things, and I don't really need yet a large language model that tells me how to do everything all the time.
Sure.
I want to use AI when I want to use it, not have it shoved down my throat, as we've been talking about.
Right.
So, like as the administrator of 3 Google Workspace organizations, I use Google all day long. And no Google, I don't want Gemini, but yes, Google, I have to have it. Right. Thus far, I've not been terribly bothered by Gemini. I don't have to use it. It's there. It's looking over my shoulder, and I got to kind of look at it and go, get away, get away.
Right.
But I'm you know what? I'm already looking for alternative solutions to Google Workspace because I know this is coming.
Well, Larry, and it's like I mentioned earlier, they've done it to the Microsoft O365, thrown similar feature sets in it, and it's driving us nuts.
Right.
Just the little things that they've done now are already driving us nuts.
I know. I have an even in my just basic M365 subscription, it's there.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. It's there. It's showing up in all my apps, and it's like, oh,
right. So there's a new side panel in Google Workspace. All right. Right. And it's opened by clicking on the Ask Gemini or the Spark button in the top right corner of Docs, Sheets, Slides, Drive, and on the web.
Every place.
Right. And it's there. It includes Gemini 1.5 Pro, giving users access to a longer context window and more advanced reasoning, both of which could be particularly useful when looking back on workspace documents, which could be several years old. So the side panel will allow Gemini to assist you with summarizing, analyzing, generating content by utilizing insights gathered from your email, documents, and more. So it's going to sort of look at all of the stuff you got, and when you ask it specific questions, it's going to pull content from wherever else, which is not bad, but it's like you said, it's a little in your face in order to be able to use it.
And I think they could do a better job implementing it. Google has always thought the side panel was the end-all place to put everything. In Gmail for years, you kind of mouse over the side panel on the right. You get Google Keep, Google Calendar, Google To Do, whatever they call their to-do thing. Yeah. You get all that stuff. It's a horrible place for it.
And by the way,
I don't like the side panel.
By the way, for those who are aware, Microsoft Teams is trying to do exactly the same thing, where all these plug-in things are on the side, and it becomes kind of overwhelming. very quickly, and it's
They
too much.
started that with that stupid Bing bar.
They
Yeah,
did. They did. And they just leverage it in Microsoft Teams now. It's just hiding there. So they're all doing that. I mean, the two biggies, at least in this space, are doing it, which, by the way, makes me want to start using the Apple apps instead of these other ones. But that's a whole nother side conversation.
Right. No, it is. So it's the idea here is that Gemini will allow you to gather content, create content from your content. It'll gather metadata and other data from everything else and summarize it very nicely so that you can go ahead and reuse this content in a fresh way. All right.
Right.
Certain Google Workspace customers will initially be able to access the tools, namely those with the Gemini Business and Enterprise add-on, the Gemini's Education and Education Premium add-on, or a Google One AI Premium subscription. So I don't know.
So let me take a side trip here for a minute. So they've done this to Android as well, for those who have Android devices. So that a lot of times, if you have an Android device now with the newer OS running on it, it will say, "Hey, by the way, we can replace Google Assistant with Gemini."
Right.
It'll try to shove that in your face and get you to make that change. Here's the problem. I, for example, use a thing called interpreter mode, which is based on Google Translate that runs on Pixel devices for the most part, and on Pixel Fold. It does that nice thing where the outside screen shows one language, your inside screen shows the other. You both can talk and you see.
We talked about this.
Guess what?
3 weeks ago.
If you enable Gemini, it completely breaks the function, and they have no fix for it. It's not coming because Gemini cannot do all of the things that Google Assistant did, and this was based on Google Assistant. It can't do all that stuff. So the feature set isn't there yet. So my advice to folks is
complete integration.
Don't switch to Gemini yet. Yeah. Don't do Gemini yet. It's not ready for prime time on an Android device. So they're
on an Android device, and that's the important key.
That's the important thing. And the point I'm getting at is Google has made a very large effort, much like Microsoft, to rush to the finish line when there's no finish line yet. And they're rushing, and they're throwing all this crap at us, and it's breaking stuff. My advice is to take a wait and see kind of approach for a lot of this kind of stuff, regardless. But if you can,
I gotta agree.
Well,
if you can,
to be honest, with anything new, there's going to be bumps and potholes.
Yeah, this is more than bumps, though.
Not disagreeing with you, with you, but my point is, anytime you start, I would still consider a lot of AI to be in the early adoption phase.
Yeah, but the problem is that's not how they're pushing it in our faces. Not pushing it as
I know, but I would caution anybody that's interested in any AI features at this time. I'd still say you're still in the early adoption phase. There's a lot of how this is going to work, and a lot of the integrations that you're really going to need haven't been completely worked out yet. You don't have a lot.
When it's all worked out, Chris, we'll call it Skynet.
Oh, thank you. Ooh, such a name.
I knew you'd be happy with
that. But the I guess the point that I'm making is, if you are the kind of person that likes jumping into the Canary or Dev Insider channels for Windows, you're the kind of person that likes running developer betas for Mac on your production or your main daily driver machine at home. If you're the kind of person that really likes to see the new stuff as early as it's available, this is going to be for you, but you need to understand and be aware that it's not fully baked. It's not completely there yet. And I think that until you get that fully baked experience, until all of the integrations and until all of the issues are worked out, you're going to bump into these problems like the one that you're talking about. It doesn't completely interface,
but you're not always going to understand that that's
your Android device.
But you're not always going to understand that that's what broke. That's the problem. So I would say take a very cautious approach to this, because you're not always going to know what caused your things to break.
True. You won't always understand that, but you should know all right, that if you're going to chase after any of this stuff, you really need to be prepared. There's going to be issues, there's going to be problems, you're not going to get the experience that you thought you were going to get or the one that you had expected. It's going to be bumpy. This is just the way that the early adoption phase works. This is Microsoft, the first was probably the first real company to utilize the term public beta. All right. And they did that back with Windows 2000 and Windows 98, 98 SE, way back when. They threw it out and they got rid of the technical beta team and they got the public involved, and they had everybody start throwing in bug reports, and they found that they got more detail faster, or they got areas of where the technical beta team could not necessarily concentrate. They got a larger volume of stuff, and this was seen as good. The problem is most of that stuff is garbage.
Yeah.
And you're being used as a cog in their testing machine. All right. And you're going to get it, especially if you're using that machine to do or try to do real work for either you or the office or whatever, you're going to bump into problems. It's going to be bumpy. It's going to be difficult to work with. Get ready for it. Here it comes.
And I agree with what you're saying. It is an early adopter kind of thing. My problem with it is none of it's been presented that way. And that's where I have the problem.
No,
it's being presented as, this is just the next version. Here you go.
Right.
And the reality is,
right.
Yeah, not exactly.
No, this is not ready for general consumption. It is not. AI is nowhere near ready for general consumption. What is happening is the large language models and the algorithms need to learn. And the only way that they're going to learn is by getting it out to the public early.
And we'll talk about another way that they learn too. In a few stories here, we're going to talk about some more learning, AI learning.
Sure. The problem though is that because it requires a large amount of learning, we are the ones that are teaching it, and we are the ones that are going to go through all of the growing pains. So
it's true.
Get ready. It's going to be painful. It's not going to work out right. So I'm just saying, I'm going to move us on because, like I said earlier, we're like you said, we'll get into a little bit more of that in just a little bit. But I want to move us to a story that kind of really grinded my gears a little bit. It ground my gears down a little bit this week. T-Mobile has been probably over the last 4 or 5 years, they have grown so much. They have improved so much. And one of the things that really kind of keyed me into T-Mobile was the fact that they had these Magenta 55 plans. All right. A Magenta 55 plan is a plan for those of us that are 55 years or older. And one of the problems or one of the perks for those things, all right, is that they promised that the prices for those plans and for others that also qualified either for those or for different plans that fell under the same kind of umbrella, that the prices for those plans would never ever, provided you didn't change, those prices would never ever go up. If your price for that plan was $25 a month, you would be $25 a month for that plan until you canceled or changed that plan. It could be 100 years from now, and it wouldn't matter. They wouldn't change the price. Well, guess what they did, folks? They upped the price anywhere between $5 to $10.
I don't think we even made 5 years, did we?
No. No.
I don't know
what I'm still waiting on, though. I mean, based on what you just said, I have the 55 Magenta Plus, their best plan for 55. It's the best plan they offer.
Yep.
And the letter I got, or the email I got, said I still have that. And I do. I'm still paying exactly what I've been paying for the last 6 years or 5
Well,
years, excuse me.
I have a
Now,
Magenta
it
55
may
plus
jump
plan.
up. Don't get me wrong. It may get more, but they are trying to get me to change away from the 55 Magenta and go to their other new name plan, which is $5 a month more. That's all. $5.
I also have a Magenta 55 plus plan. And my prices went up $10 a month.
$10. Wow. Mine did not. I could show you my bill. Please don't tell them because I'm not saying a word.
And it's not just the Magenta 55, as you kind of implied. There's other plans that are in a similar vein that weren't supposed to change, and they have. And I don't know if they're doing it in waves or what it is, but there's been a lot of complaints with the FCC about it already. And as a follow-on, as we talked about, even their own internal chatbot is saying that it never should have changed.
And I hate to see that.
This is what I really found was interesting. All right.
Well, their website's always been kind of a mess. To be honest.
Well, it true, but the chatbot is effectively saying that it's an FCC violation, that the prices have changed. It says that they were going to be subject to legal action from the FCC. I mean, it really kind of took them to task.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
So it was really sort of interesting. But what I don't now I get it. If you want to create a new plan, all right, and you want to really sort of try to push people to get off their certain plan, their existing plan, and move to a new one, man, you can throw marketing at them as much as you want. You can go ahead and throw
'cause that's not a lie, but this is right.
No, but you can go ahead and throw a lot of stuff at them or make it quote unquote.
Well, and so here's the challenge. Here's the thing. You got to remember, just a few years ago, T-Mobile was blasting other carriers for lying to their customers.
Yes.
So it looks kind of it just looks bad. The optics on this are terrible.
Absolutely. So far there have been over 1,600 different consumer complaints about the price hikes by T-Mobile customers to the FCC, and that was as of the 27th, 3 days ago. So I'm assuming at this point that number has grown. To what extent, I don't know, but I will tell you, it ain't all that great.
No, it's interesting. I mean, to be fair, I mean, we all can probably agree that none of the carriers have exactly been completely good all the time. They're just not, and sometimes it's things that they're outright lying about. Some things it's things that they promised that they couldn't deliver on. There's a variety of things that have happened over the years with all the carriers, as far as I'm concerned, all the big ones anyway.
Right.
But this is disappointing because they were pretty blatant about what they said, and they pretty blatantly have not
it's
kind of followed up
deceptive
on
advertising, isn't it? I mean,
it can be. It
plans
depends.
that are targeted at seniors. All right,
you got to be careful. You got to be careful though, because what they said, if they contradicted it somewhere else in their documentation somewhere, and they didn't really say that exactly, you could take that to go, well, you didn't read the fine print, kind of thing. It's hard to say what they did here, but if nothing else, again, the optics on this are not good. You've pissed off a lot of people, and you screwed up on a senior plan of all things. You don't mess with the seniors, and you don't mess with the military guys, and that's kind of what this, kind of how this, not publicly anyway.
Let me add one thing in here. I'm not trying to be devil's advocate with this because I get all this, but on the other hand, if you're a realist, you know that any of these carriers can't provide the same service from now for 100 years because they're going to pay more for it. So expecting a little bit of a raise once in a while, I mean, I get that. I'm okay with that. But why their mistake was telling us that they weren't going to do it. They should have said, we'll try and not do it or something. But
so I believe the Magenta 55 plans were supposed to be either $50 or $60 a month, right? The Magenta was 50, the Magenta Plus was 60. All right. But the point that I'm trying to make though is that that price bought you into the carrier. They've got all sorts of other charges for data rates and whatnot. They could have raised those and we would never have known, and there would not be this dramatic outcry, right? Yeah. To everybody losing their minds where you're screwing over the seniors and the folks that really can't afford to have, because they're all living on fixed incomes, you know?
It's really shouldn't be. Again, but regardless of whether they legally are allowed to do it based on what the document actually said, the reality is it doesn't look good because they were kind of obvious about what they said a few years ago, and now it appears that they're not holding up to that.
So T-Mobile has responded, all right, to the FCC complaints with a letter explaining the limits of the price guarantee, and they said with uncontract, T-Mobile committed to its customers that if we were to increase prices and customers chose to leave us as a result, T-Mobile would pay the customer's final month's recurring service charge as long as we are notified within 60 days, and customers simply need to request reimbursement within 60 days of the price increase.
Well, that pretty much.
Well, again, there you go in the fine print. But again,
it does not explain why that caveat wasn't mentioned in their 2017 original press release that announced all of these plans. All right, but nonetheless requests that the FCC close each consumer complaint about the price increase, which I think is.
But again, all that says to me is that you're deceptive. You're hiding it in the fine print, and you're not putting it out in the front where you need to be putting it out.
And they never mentioned all that garbage. They never, what they were pushing in with the advertising was, you seniors, you get an account with us, and that price will never ever go up. That's what they said. That's what their commercials said. That's what people heard, and that's why people jumped on. But that's
it's whether the question will be, and I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised to see it end up in the courts at some point. But
I'm pretty sure that it'll be.
We'll see how it pans out there.
I'm pretty sure that that's going to happen. But
they may have done a CYA, but
what else may end up in the courts, though? You know what else may end up in the courts?
Lots of things.
A whole bunch of things. But with the AU10 ticks. Which is a identity verification company that's used by a lot of tech giants.
A lot, by almost all of them.
Left photo IDs exposed. So go, Chris.
Yeah, so they let this is a company that validates things using your photo ID. You usually have to send your photo ID front and back or whatnot. And guess what, kids? They kind of got it exposed. They kind of made it vulnerable to hackers. And it's like this is your driver's license. And
they took these things, they took these IDs, right?
Yeah.
And they went ahead and they either left them unencrypted or they left them in a place where the encryption wasn't all that great. And somehow this information, this data, these pictures, these IDs were left exposed to hackers.
What was their own admin credentials that they left exposed and got into their systems?
And so let's keep in mind the big players use this. PayPal uses it. TikTok uses it. Coinbase uses it. LinkedIn, Upworks uses it for job stuff. I mean, it's a huge, right? Exactly, Larry. A large number of people depend on this as part of their validation process, and these guys completely effed it up. They just did.
Well, there's no other word for it either.
No,
I don't have any other word for it.
And this is going to be, this is, worse than, what was the name of that company that password manager company that's constantly getting
LastPass.
Yeah. This is just as bad as that, if not worse.
It may be more people.
This is going to keep spilling for the next weeks or months. We're going to hear more about this.
Absolutely. Now the company claims that no personal data was obtained, but given that the credentials were shared in Telegram channels used by hackers and have worked for more than a year, this seems questionable.
But they're saying that the accessible information that the people had access to when they got these credentials were driver's license, dates, name of birth, nationality, ID number. What's not private about that?
And what's not able to go
exactly.
ahead then and and steal your identity or create some level of.
There's enough there to create an identity. Yeah.
Absolutely, there is. I mean, it's absolutely the stupidest thing.
Yeah.
We were saying this the other week that in a show or two ago, it's not that it's never going to happen. It's going to happen. You're going to get screwed at some point. Somebody's going to steal your identity. You're going to have to go through these steps to go and recapture your identity, to get these charges and credit reports, removed from
Fixed.
your accounts and from refunded to your bank accounts. Oh my God.
If you don't get exposed here, it's kind of like COVID. They now say that everyone, over 99% of the people in the United States got COVID at some point, and
Yep.
many of them didn't know it, but
Right.
they had it. It's the same thing here. It's going to
Right.
happen. You're going to
Right.
get it.
You're right. It's gonna hit you. It's gonna hit you. Well, I'll tell you one thing that won't be able to help get you though. You know what that is? Kaspersky software.
What is
Because
that?
it's gone. It's banned, baby. Kaspersky software is out of here. So Larry, what's going on with this? I saw this and I'm like, well, Kaspersky software, that's Russia. That's a Russian-based company. And I thought
True.
that
And don't confuse that with Ukraine. It's not Ukraine.
no,
It is
it's not
Russian
Ukraine.
based.
Ukraine is not part of.
So
not
here's
part
the
of
here's the deal.
Russian-
I did go read
Oh.
about this quite a bit. Before my career started in technology, I spent 20 years in the military, and a lot of that was in security. So I get this stuff.
Mhm.
But in my humble opinion, it is about freaking time that they pulled the shade on Kaspersky. I've been a very long antagonist of that company. I hope my moving ban isn't sabotaged because of this, but I mean, but for the very same reasons that they're doing this now. As you all know, we don't do politics on this show, but it is important to know that the United States administration, current administration, conducted a very extremely thorough investigation of Kaspersky. And they explored every option to try and mitigate this, to keep them in business and let them keep selling their wares.
Mhm.
But they found that even their own simple user apps, Windows Kaspersky anti-malware system,
Mhm.
had things in it, nefarious things that could impact national security if employed. So this is a big deal.
Right.
So,
Now this
for
they
me,
went ahead and they banned the software beginning July 20th, right? With the company only allowed to provide software updates to existing companies through September 29th. All right. The ban, and this is a first under authorities given to the Commerce Department in 2019, follows years of warnings, as you said, right, about Kaspersky being a national security threat because Moscow could allegedly commandeer its all-seeing antivirus software to spy on its customers. So, yeah.
well, this ban is on on our website, on our show site, so you can take a look at it. I put the link up there.
Yeah, I don't think, and I've certainly heard interviews with folks at the company. I don't think that those as individuals they were out, trying to create a problem here or anything like that. But the problem is they cannot avoid the fact that, as Chris, as you just pointed out, at any time their government could go and take
Yeah.
this stuff, and they have these keys that are open in order to do what they do, and it's impossible to guarantee that it could be safe. There are things in there that could be triggered, and you just
Right.
you can't get past that. You can't.
Yeah, they
Right.
also make a password manager, so a lot of people can have their stuff in that.
Sure.
Yeah, there you
your
go.
credit cards, your passwords, your personal information. At this point, I don't know.
Apparently, certain admin accounts for certain companies. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? But according to messages that were sent to U.S. companies that use this particular software. They've been told they've done nothing wrong. They're not subject to any kind of penalties or criminal criminal proceedings. They are being encouraged in the strongest terms possible to immediately stop using the software and switch to an alternative in order to protect their IP, their data, and their families. This would include not only businesses, but individuals as well, because they did have a consumer product. So if you've got it, burn it.
Yeah,
we as a country have been looking hard at Kaspersky for years, though. We have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
true enough.
I don't doubt that.
I've never used their stuff. None of the people I've worked for have used their stuff. So
no,
there's other stuff out there. We'd recommend you use it.
Sure.
Yep. Sure. I would agree.
Sure. Especially if you're on a Windows machine. All right. If you're on a Windows machine, you need to have an anti-malware product. And believe it or not, Microsoft Defender is actually not bad. And it comes.
It really isn't
very,
bad.
very good, actually.
Yeah. So you don't have to go anywhere.
And
the basic functions of virus scanning and anti-malware protection are already built into the operating system, and honestly, it's a decent package.
You have it on a Mac too. Under they call it X Protect under a Mac, and under Windows it's Windows Defender. So you have some things built in there.
Right.
I would recommend you probably take steps beyond those things, but
sure.
But they definitely get you the basics.
Absolutely. So that's interesting. There is a official ban site. And we do have.
Yeah, I think Larry gave us that, didn't you?
Larry gave us that. It's in the show
I put
notes.
I put it on the show notes.
Yep. So if you want to read the actual PDF, that
it's kind of interesting. It's pretty heavy. I mean, they hammered them.
So there you go. So if you're interested to see what's going on with that, it'll be in the show notes. You guys can go and see that. The last thing that I want to go ahead and talk about before we take a quick break, though, is I saw this and it really got under my skin. It's another reason why I just don't. I don't want to say addicted to Facebook, but I'm on Facebook. I know a lot of my family is on Facebook. We trade pictures back and forth. And it's one of the reasons why I've stayed on Facebook, is only because the family is there, right? Otherwise, at this point, I would not be on Facebook at all. All right.
Sure.
But Meta, the parent company for Facebook, has effectively said they're going to use your personal data to train their AI. You can opt out, sort of. All right. And I say sort of because, and this was a really, really interesting thing. I've included the opt out page. All right. That's actually part of the Facebook Help Center in the show notes. And if you read through this, you have to have, it's not that, hey, I don't want Facebook to touch any of my information and I'm opting out even before you go and you start making any sort of moves to get it. You can't do that. They have your information. They're gonna use it. If, however, you have been prompted by any sort of third party to use your information, then you may go ahead and opt out, but only if you've been prompted for it. And you have to have kept track of the URL for whenever that happened. And you have to have taken screenshots of it. So you not only do you have to have gotten a prompt for it, but you have to go ahead and prove to them that you did get prompted. Otherwise, you can't opt out. And they're going to use your information. So if you're on Facebook, guess what, buddy? you're going to be part of the AI training.
That's part of the Facebook bend over and say thank you process.
Yep.
I am so glad I abandoned them a number of years ago. I got off that thing and shut that
I
account
had
down.
no trouble
No,
quitting
that
Twitter,
account,
but I
that
can't.
account, by the
I
way, is
can't
still
do
out there. You
Facebook.
need to go and you need to go back and check that. It's still out there. All right.
I mean, I closed the account. I mean, I totally emptied it. It's done. So the point is, they can't come back at anything current because it has. I mean, it's so many years old now; it's useless.
But even still,
I get what you're saying, though.
But it's out that day, whatever data they had is out there.
Oh yeah,
and they're going to use it. What really bothers me though is I can't tell them that I don't want my information to be part of this model. All right, it's going to be part of the model. You have no choice. And that's what really, really just burns my barnacles. I mean, it really does. So I don't want it. And yet they don't care. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bend over and say thank you. Yes, bend over and say thank you. You're number one. You're number one.
You're number one.
Oh my God. It just really just annoys the daylights out of me. You know, I don't have I know they have to use something to train their AI models with. But I should have the ability to say, don't use me.
You know what Meta knows, though, Chris? They know that you will sit here and I and Chris and thousands, if not tens of thousands of other people whine and moan about this rightfully. And when the whining and moaning is done, it'll all stop. They'll be doing their thing and it'll blow over. And they know that.
It has every other time that they
have every other time. Yeah.
This isn't their first scandal, kids.
No, I mean, for anybody.
No.
All these things blow over. We forget them and we let them do their bad stuff.
Well, again, not for me. I left them. So, you know,
you're
but
right.
not everybody can do that.
Right. No,
I was able to with Twitter, but I can't do it.
And I did give up. Don't get me wrong. I did give up some things by doing that.
Absolutely. You did.
I haven't looked back and said, I kind of looked back and said, I didn't need that. I just didn't need it.
No. Unfortunately, when we've got family across the country and.
Yeah, but to me, that's just teaching your family to use other methods for sharing with you. You know, that's it. It's easy. I know it's easy to say that. I get that. I get it's easier to say it than follow it up. But the problem
it's like trying to get someone to move from Twitter to Mastodon. It's just not going to happen at the family level.
At the family level. Correct. No. And then the problem is that we've got older family members that want to see pictures of the kids and the grandkids and the great grandkids.
That's not important. It's not important. I don't care. I don't care what my family's doing.
Right. No,
if they really want to talk to me, they have other ways to talk to me. End of story.
Sure.
I took a very hard line on it. I acknowledge that. I did. But I literally said to them, if you want to reach me,
it's not,
this is how
not everybody can do that though, right? Not everybody can do that.
No, let me be clear on this. They can, but it takes a lot of work and people don't want to do that. They don't want to stand the line. I chose to. Not everybody can do that, but I did do that.
I'll give you that.
So don't say you
not
can't.
everybody wants to go through the gyrations.
But it's a lot of gyrations. I will acknowledge it's not an easy thing for people to do, but you can do it. You know,
sure,
you have to make a hard choice to do it.
It's got to be a concerted effort. It's not just
got to be a concerted effort.
I'll pull the plug and leave. No,
right. No, you can go ahead and you can get off.
If Aunt Sally thinks it's important to send you the latest picture of whatever freaking thing she's eating for dinner, then she's just gonna have to find another way to send it.
No, that's Twitter.
That's
Twitter.
Now it doesn't have to be Twitter either, but there's lots of ways to do it.
Well, what I think really kind of gets to me though is that there are so many people that are out there, and there are so many people that are not tech savvy, and that there are so many people that are going to be taken advantage of by this. And they just don't know. All right.
But you have to decide, is that worse, or is making Aunt Sally have to work to send her your pictures? worse? What's worse for you? You have to make that decision.
It's not that it's worse for me. It's just that it's more because it'll be easy for me to figure out. I can stick them over here. The problem is Aunt Sally and her muscle memory. She's going to be able to know that this is what she has to do now. What I did
was I told people, email me or send it to me in text.
Right.
They don't have to do both of those things.
I understand that, but this is the problem with the whole use case issue, right? I mean, this is where the use case problem comes in. Is Aunt Sally's use case gonna will your use case support this move? Will it be easy for everyone to go ahead and make this?
It's more than that. It's what it is Aunt Sally getting the picture to you that important that you're willing to put up with this stupidity. That's what's important.
Do you know Aunt Sally? I mean, do you know my Aunt Sally? I mean,
that's my point. That's my point. Right? You know, if it's important, let me put it this way. If it's important enough, you find a way to work around it. Otherwise, it's not important enough to you, and you'll just accept it and bend over and say thank you, just like everybody else is doing. That's how it's going to come down.
And
sorry, but that's what it is.
And with that,
I think a lot of it also is it's easier for them to just one time post pictures of little Billy's graduation from kindergarten, and it's over. And then everybody can pull instead of her pushing to 5,000 relatives.
Exactly.
And so to me, it's about laziness. It is.
It's the convenience. It's the convenience.
Absolutely. No question.
Chris chooses laziness, not convenience.
Well, it's not me. Convenience,
it's not necessarily. No, I meant Chris G.
Convenience happens because people are lazy. That's why we create conveniences. So there you go.
Yep. And with that note, we'll be right back after this brief message. Hi, this is Christopher Spera with iTechGear.org, and I'm here to tell you that iTechGear.org and the iTechGear Weekly are on Patreon. Patreon is a platform for creators, allowing them to express their creative side in an organized, marketable fashion and earn a living or create a really cool kind of side hustle. You can create a community around your hobby of choice. You can gain followers. You can get members and supporters all along the way. You can create subscription products that for a pledged amount every month, you'll provide to your members and followers. Setup is easy. Prices are reasonable, and you can have your pledges auto-deposited into an account of your choice every month. With iTechGear.org, our initial offering is a monthly newsletter for just $3 a month. This is our initial offering, and we'll have other tiers and other products and other offers up in the coming months. Become a patron of our site. Grow with us, and we'll provide you with the tech understanding that you're missing right now. Join us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/iTechGear. That's www.patreon.com/iTechGear. And welcome back to the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 96. It's a use case problem. And I want to go ahead and move us to our Windows segment in the back half of the show. We've sort of alluded to this next story a little bit when we were talking earlier about AI and Copilot pieces, but we've been misled about Copilot PCs. And how have we been misled, Chris?
Let me first phrase it. This title comes from a YouTube posting that I came across, and the title of this posting is in itself not the greatest title. It's a little bit of a clickbaity kind of title,
right?
But having said that, really what it's more about is this notion that these things are so great and fast and wonderful and perfect and all that kind of thing. And really, I've kind of said this before, there's a lot of factors to consider as you look at these things. There are things that they're not as good at, not as fast at. There are things that even amongst themselves, there are differences. And you need to understand that there are different flavors of this thing out there, you know.
Sure.
So what this particular YouTube did, despite the title This YouTube video that we have the link for in our notes actually did a really pretty good job of researching and breaking down the current state of these devices that are coming out and what they look like, what they don't look like in terms of what they can and can't do, their speeds and things like that. How they really perform out in the real world under some real world conditions. What will behave better. Like, for example, one of the things that's a little misleading with these things is that, they'll show you a benchmark and say, gee, it's this fast, it does this, it does that. But then they don't tell you that, yeah, but when you're running games, for example, they're really not completely there yet. Or if you're looking, and Chris, you and I have talked about this before on ARM-based devices, drivers is a big thing.
Right.
And there's some challenges with those things. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that need to be kind of talked about here. And this particular video actually does a nice breakdown of the way that things currently stand. So it's been a little misleading because they've been hyped up a lot right now. Everybody's talking about how great they are. And I think this is the way things are going to, and I've certainly said that as well. These particular devices have come a long way from where they were. And I think that's a point that I think needs to be made. They're way better than their predecessors were in a lot of different ways. However, there are still some areas where they're not quite as good as alternatives that are out there. So take it with a grain of salt, and that's kind of what I think all this particular video is trying to say when you actually watch the video, despite the title.
Well, so, I will say and repeat some of the things that we've said before. Part of the biggest problems that I have about the new Copilot PCs is that Microsoft is trying to push the AI right in your face, and yet everything that you're doing is now AI capable, AI and so much better, quote unquote, with AI than without. And that may or may not be the case at the end of the day, but I don't like the fact that I'm being forced into a new way of using this device that I've been using for, or a similar device that I've been using 20, 30 years.
But let me extend that. That's not even just these Copilot PCs that are doing it. All the new flavors of Windows 11 coming out, regardless of whether you're on a Copilot PC or not, are pushing you down this path. They're all doing it. So it's Microsoft's general approach. It's not just these particular machines.
That is true.
So I just want to be clear on it. They're
true. That is true. I think it's going to be a little bit more in your face on this type of machine, on a Copilot Plus PC, than it would be on, say, an Intel PC that doesn't have that neural engine.
But Intel is putting the neural engine in the next version of chips, so it'll be there. AMD's putting the neural engine in the next version of chips. It'll be there. The point is, they're all. This is just a temporary state that we're in. That Intel isn't in that path, but you're still getting it in Windows 11, especially if you're in a beta. You're definitely getting it already.
And you know what? We're not the first people to say this. If you read just a little bit about this, people have interviewed Microsoft and said, why are you forcing Copilot and all of this AI onto your users? And they have what they feel is an honest answer. They say, because we think our users on the whole don't get all this stuff. They need help. They need our help. That's what they say.
Help is one thing. Shoving the spoon down my throat to feed me is another thing.
Yes. You're going to make me choke and gag is what's going to happen.
That's really what they think they're doing the right thing.
I'm going to push back. People are going to push back.
And the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Thank you. There's a Randy Travis song in there somewhere. Yes.
Somewhere.
Yes, there is.
So, I see at some point the national gag reflex or the industry gag reflex is going to hit, and I don't know if it's going to be sooner rather than later or not, but it's going to come to a head, and I think it's going to be a problem.
Well, we've already said a lot of this cannot happen in the enterprise because they won't accept it. For a variety of reasons. It can't happen in the enterprise. Well, they're going to have to tone it down somehow.
They are, and especially on the enterprise side of things, they are, especially in regulated industries like the pharmaceutical industry or
Well,
a medical
even
device
other
industry.
industries, Chris. I mean, take a look for those of
Yeah.
us who spent a lot of years in IT. This
Yeah.
is the kind of crap we ripped off of PCs before we
did.
ever gave it to our people to
Absolutely.
use. We
Absolutely.
wouldn't stand for it.
Right.
No.
No, it's going to
What's
be
going to happen
seen as a
now if you
security
work for a
breach.
company? Are they going to let that? Are you still going to be able to push that Copilot button and make it work?
Nope.
I
I'll
bet
tell you
you
that right
can't.
now. No.
Not in enterprise.
Not in the enterprise. No, you're not.
Well, I think it's going to be, there always has been a difference in the consumer releases of the operating system and the enterprise releases. There's always some slight differences in them. And I think the same thing is going to be true of these machines. The enterprise release of the Surface Pros historically has actually been slightly different than the consumer release of the product. And I think we're just going to see differences because I don't see how else they can do it. They can't push it in the enterprise market.
I agree with
the
this,
consumer
but
product.
on the other
I don't know.
hand,
I don't know
right
how
this
they're going to
minute,
make that difference, but
I mean,
they
I have
have to, because
friends in big
people won't buy
companies,
it.
and
They won't
they
buy
are
it.
not letting them
I
use
agree.
AI. They're just not letting them use it
No,
yet.
they won't.
And I
They
agree.
won't. They won't.
So
It's
they'll just
very,
not
very
sell
true.
them. They won't be able to buy them. People will stop buying them. Surfaces actually kind of snuck in, and a lot of enterprise buyers were buying them for quite a while there because it
Mhm.
was kind of a happy medium in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And they sold quite well. I certainly saw it in a couple of
They
companies I
sold
worked
quite
for.
well, largely because from a
In the
manager
enterprise market.
book, right? From a
Yeah.
manager book perspective, they were awesome because they could slide inside of a
Right.
real small little
Your
bag.
briefcase, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. You took it, your carry bag, and when you had to travel, it was a great thing. But I think the thing is, I think that again, there is a variance, and if you've ever watched Microsoft's website, there's a variance between the enterprise version of the product and the consumer version of the product.
Yeah.
And I think that if they can't make that variance successful by removing the AI stuff, or at least removing the AI stuff that is intrusive potentially, unless they can do that, they're going to stop selling. Enterprises won't buy them.
Or the stuff that actually ends up using the cloud and has to go out.
Well, true,
outside,
but I guess I think what
in
you're
order
going to
to,
see
because
is
they don't want that exposure. They don't want the data to go out and then come back.
But some enterprises have actually made the move toward MacBooks as their solution, and some enterprises have made their move toward Linux instead. I wouldn't be surprised to see it become more of that if this keeps up and Microsoft doesn't address it.
Agree.
So it's the wrong approach for Microsoft to take, at least with the enterprise.
Right.
I don't want to see it in the consumer space either. At least I want to see it be able to be turned off to an extent. The things that are more blatant, I want turned off.
They don't want their employees answering customers' questions with AI. They want them using their tools and their brains.
Their script.
That's what they're getting paid for. Because the customer could say, well, hell with that. I'll just go get this on my own if it's AI.
Right.
Why do I need you?
Correct.
And they will.
They will. Absolutely, they will.
Yes, they will. So, well, yeah.
We'll
see.
That's
we'll see. I this is me being an old curmudgeon, right? This is me being an old curmudgeon. I don't like it when somebody tells me
a lot of common sense there, not necessarily curmudgeon.
Tells me how to go and do something. I'm not that. I'm more computer literate than that. I'm more computer savvy than that, and I don't like that stuff being shoved in my face. But we'll wait and see what Microsoft actually does. But
it'll be interesting.
Yep. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move us to our tip of the week segment. And
are you now?
I am.
Really?
Okay.
And did you know that iTechGear was founded with the intent of making technology easier for everyone to use and understand?
Everyone?
Everyone.
Wow.
Even me?
Even you. This team specifically has dedicated their writing careers to that purpose, believe it or not. And every week, the iTechGear Weekly is going to feature a new computing tip authored by one of our most experienced editors. If you guys have questions, or if you guys have requests, or if you guys have suggestions, you can all go ahead and send those things in to us at tips@itechgear.org. And if we use it on the show, we will definitely give you your 15 seconds worth of fame. So this week, I've got what I think is a really, really awesome Outlook tip. Outlook by default has the preview of every email open by default. And I don't like seeing that email opened, largely because if there's something malicious in that particular piece of email, it could get activated, especially if there's any kind of active content. Now, active content has really been removed from Outlook and Exchange. But even if there's something that's there that you don't necessarily want to have automatically opened, it's been very, very difficult to get Outlook to not have that view, because that view is on by default. That preview pane is open on by default. And I don't like to have my main Outlook view to have that view. So in 9 times out of 10, if you want to go ahead and turn it off, you can turn it off. You just go over to view and on the view tab, and you go over to the reading pane or the preview pane, and you turn it off. All right, it's on by default and you turn it off. But the problem is, if you want that for every single folder that you've got, you have to do that individually. Did you know that there's a way to go ahead and apply that view to all folders all at once? I recently found this out. You can apply a current view to all mail folders. All right. Outlook has a feature called Apply Current View to Other Mail Folders. This allows you to copy the view of your current folder without needing to make a view template first, or having to apply it to each individual folder that you have. All you have to go is go to the View tab, and then click the button that says Change View, and then Apply Current View to Other Mail Folders. It'll go ahead and throw up a dialog box, and it will allow you to click the individual folders that you want to apply this view to. However, if you choose the parent folder, all right, and then click the button that says Apply View, or click the box that says Apply View to Subfolders, and then click the OK button, all your folders get the same view. Cool. So if you don't like having that preview pane automatically on, this is the best way to get rid of it. So there you go.
I never heard of doing it that way. I always went to the account level stuff and just changed it there.
Well, it's not
interesting.
Too many folks.
Very interesting.
Not too many folks actually.
I like that. That's another way to get there. I like
know
that.
How to do that. So there you go. So I want to go ahead and move us to our pick of the week segment. But before we get there, I want to remind everybody that our show picks are typically hardware, software, and other items of interest that we have individually purchased and actually used, and that we like enough that we want to recommend to you, our growing listener base. These aren't paid advertisements. These aren't anything that we have an affiliated marketing relationship with. If they were, the editorial policy over at iTechGear.org indicates that we have to go ahead and note that up front. These are just things that we sincerely believe in and that we want to bring to you at the end of each show. Why?
Because we like you.
That's right. And now this week, I have another non-tech pick this week, and this is one that I have actually found to be of huge value, at least to us. My boys are both athletic. My youngest son is actually a student athlete in high school, and is serious about trying to get himself into a D1 school for his chosen sport, pole vaulting. So and they are big. Both of them are big into drinking water, and keeping hydrated. And if you have teenage boys at all, or any teenagers at all, you know that they are snack holes. They go after everything. They eat everything in the house. They'll drink everything in the house. When it comes to purified water or bottled water, or even it's the expense can be absolutely crazy. The thing that I like the most here is a water pitcher made by iTechGear. It is the iTechGear lead chlorine PFOA PFOS microplastics filter, 10 cup 120 gallon filter life pitcher. You go ahead and you pour the water in on the top. It goes down through the filter, and it's got some really good results with filtering the water.
Is it like a Brita or one of those, or?
It's very familiar. It's very similar.
Okay.
Very similar to one of those. It's $69.95. The filters are about $50. But I've noticed over the last few years, the water coming out of the tap here, it's getting a little yellow. All right. Which I'm not all that crazy about.
I don't drink yellow water.
And I don't like, when the water is yellow, something is definitely wrong. You stick it through this filter though, it's no longer yellow. There's no yellow cast or yellow stain to it. It really smells sulfury coming out of the smells like well water, and it's not, it's city water. All right. But you put it through this iTechGear pitcher, and it smells good. It tastes fine. It's just as good as the bottled water you might buy from the grocery store. So, and the filters last for about 6 months. So there you go.
That's good though.
It's not too bad.
All right.
So I like that one. It recently just bought another filter again, and good stuff.
That sounds like a good idea. It's probably cheaper than the alternative. They say you can put lots of scotch with water and it'll take out all the contaminants of the water.
And there you go.
I like your idea, Larry.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So there you go. So that seems like it seemed like a really good buy for the family. It's something that we use a lot. So there you go. And that, kids, is the show. This has been the iTechGear Weekly, episode number 96. It has a use case problem, recorded live Sunday, June 30th, 2024, live from iTechGear.central. For Mr. Chris Gavula, for Dr. Mr. Larry McJunkin, and our missing brother Joe McLaughlin, I want to say we'll see you next time.